Number of people who are looking for work, actively searching for work, divided by the number of people in the labor force. Now, in fact, the people in the labor force can decline because of discouraged workers, because people stop looking for work. So it's not always the best indicator. It's actually better to look at the employment rate. That is the proportion of the population who have found paid work. Having said that, I think it's fairly clear that in some urban areas, there has been some revival of economic activity, but in rural areas, there is a real collapse of rural demand. Consumption has collapsed. It was falling even before the pandemic. There was a consumer expenditure survey that was suppressed by the government that showed us that rural consumption had fallen in absolute terms, even in the earlier period. And we know that since the pandemic, there has been a terrible onslaught. So because state governments have not received the money and then they don't pay the workers and the workers get discouraged from actually searching for these jobs, they don't even try it in many parts of the country. That and the fact that income distribution has got much, much worse means that mass consumption demand has declined, and that means all the micro and small enterprises don't have a market. So whether it is the local kirana shop, or it is the small producer making biscuits, or it is the small catering shop, or the small service provider, all of them are affected. Most workers in India are either self-employed or working for these tiny or small or micro enterprises. First of all, we threw them to the wolves during the pandemic by declaring lockdowns and closures without any compensation. Then all we did is allow them to borrow more. And then, of course, you have to repay that amount that you borrowed. So when the pandemic is over and all of those moratorium on borrowing debt and all that was lifted, suddenly there are these small enterprises that have debts they cannot repay. Many have had to close down. This is horrible, not just for their own situation and for the labor market, but it's terrible from the point of view of economic growth for India in the future. Because we cannot hope to succeed if we leave behind 85% of the population. And most of all, we must be doing things that increase demand in rural areas and among poor urban areas. Migration in India is huge, and we don't even know how many. One of the latest estimates that I saw actually refers to 2011-12, because unfortunately we have destroyed our statistical system, so we don't have recent data for most things. But at that time, it was estimated to be around 150 million people. 150 million people going from rural to urban areas. Some try to move permanently, some are seasonal. It's fair to say that a large part of the urban economy rests on that. The construction industry, logistics industries, a lot of retail trade, a lot of basic services, they all rely on migrant workers. And of course, therefore, there's a very strong relationship between what is happening in the rural economy. The fact that we have allowed such an economic depression in rural India means that it's bad in many senses. It lowers the wage rate in urban areas because, people find, and I found this when I looked at the periodic labor force survey data, that there is, in fact, a convergence between urban and rural wages because there are no jobs in rural India. Spending on health, on education, on sanitation, on basic works, on provision of essential services for people, on enabling people to access all of their social and economic rights. We underprovide all of this hugely in India. The average of public employees per population across the world is more than 4.5, about 5. In India, it's 2. We are underproviding services. To begin with, let central and state governments begin by filling vacancies. If we just fill vacancies, that's 7 million more people employed. And that has generate more demand for micro and small enterprises.